I have some discussion.
Okay, and we do have a big section on the outline, that's a big topic.
That's what's 53.
Yes.
All right. First off, I think public comment should be reordered at the beginning of this meeting rather than the last agenda item for the reason for that is back in 2017, we were criticized when our meetings were running, quite long. And they still can run quite long, depending upon the agenda. And it gives up the public an opportunity to make a presentation without sitting through the entire meeting. Some people felt penalized because they were sitting through a 3-hour meeting before they had a chance to speak. And many of the people left without even having an opportunity to comment.
I'm perfectly good with that.
Okay.
So, no, I don't know.
Two more items. Future agenda item for consideration is that if the MAC discuss the governor's $100 million cut in fire prevention and home hardening budget and recommends submission of our discussion results from Board of Supervisors for their action prior to being revised. Okay. And lastly, future agenda item, invite neighborhood auxiliary communication service and public infrastructure to make a presentation on GMRS radio use. Those are my comments.
Thanks, Mike.
You're welcome.
Anyone else?
Does any of that need to be a motion?
No. That's it.
Just one time, we do have
Okay, anyone else? Does anyone want to move to approve the agenda? And we can make that if you do the public, stuff.
We are there.
Yeah.
I feel
Was that Cynthia? And it doesn't have to be a roll call vote.
Okay.
Just a vote.
We can raise our hands.
Right.
Everyone okay with that? Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, conflict of interest. Yeah, especially for, excuse me for explaining, but for folks so that they're, this is the time, if there's anything on the agenda that you have conversation with the conflict creates, that you could be building over and then talking about it and put you in project or property or something similar. Yeah, this is the time when you kind of say, hey, I've got X conflict or something you need to get. Anybody? Okay. So we will go to, let's go to public and ask if there's any comments or questions about anything that's not on the agenda.
I appreciate Mike moving the public comment to the beginning because that's exactly why we did it to begin with. And it was my concern when I saw it at the end. So thank you for opening it up to having public comment at the beginning.
Anyone else? I bet see.
Sorry.
Okay, so now it's time for anyone, if anyone's on the council and has anything they want to discuss, it's not on the agenda, and do it. I will have to keep your comments brief. And just so you know, this is not a discussion point, a back and forth thing. This is something for you to announce or say, and then we move on to the next topic. Anybody?
And it might be a good time also for everyone to introduce themselves.
Yeah.
Were we gonna do that?
Yes.
Yes.
Last meeting, I brought up that I'd like it to be public knowledge what near future events in the Lower Russian River are, both for the purpose of asking for volunteers when appropriate and just for information to have on the public record. I thought about just leaving that to the comments that we can do ad hoc as we go along, but I think it'd be great to just have it as a standard agenda. You can call for those, and if there aren't enough, there aren't.
Events specific to the MAC or just community in general?
Community events in general, you know, last summer we attended.
I'm gonna, this is not a discussion
Right.
point, so, sorry. I just.
Clarification.
I can get. Okay, so,
We voting on
no. So now let's do, introductions. For, this is the first meeting of this, I don't know what to call it, term. So why don't we go and quickly go around, and for those of us that have been there for a while, keep it short, and for those that are new, you know, takes more time. So who you are, why are you doing it, what we're thinking. Let's start with Joe.
Joe Rogan from the Guerneville Rep. This is my first term. I chair the communications committee, and I'm also on land use so far. My interest is in advancing workforce housing, protecting the environment, and attending, getting Guerneville and Lower Russian River's fair share of county resources.
Spencer?
Hi, everyone. Spencer Scott, Guerneville, live on Armstrong Woods, with my husband. And, I'm here very similar to Joe. I think, long-term wealth and health of our community, and its ecosystem are top of my priorities.
Hi, everyone, Lonnie Lazar. I'm a new representative from Forestville. I've lived in Forestville for about 1.5 years, and I'm continuing to fall in love with the Lower Russian River area and its people and its communities. And I got involved with the MAC because fairly certain this is the last stop on the road for me in my life. And I want to participate in this community, and I want to try and do what I can to help preserve the environment here and the really welcoming and unique community sort of feeling of what I found here and what you're being done.
Great, thank you.
Hi, everybody, Ty Hilton, I'm the new Forestville rep, I'm happy to be here. I think like a lot of the other folks, I'm hoping to represent Forestville to the county and make sure the residents of Forestville's concerns are heard. I've lived in Forestville since 2017. Been busy raising a young family, and so I finally feel like I have a little bit of time that I can do this type of work, and so here I am, happy to be here.
Thank you.
I'm Vicki Clues, and I'm the Hacienda rep. This is my second year of my first term, and I am happily getting more and more involved in the issues of my community, learning more about my community, and trying to be somebody who can help solve some of the problems. And this is my last stop. I always say I will be taken out in a body bag from my house, so I would really like to see us maintain the things that really work here and change the things that work.
I'm Pip Marquez de La Plata. I think, this is my sixth year. I've been on the MAC since the beginning. The reason I started on the MAC and the reason I continue to be on the MAC is Rio Negro has traditionally been a place that is very neglected. From any kind of research, from county to state, to federal, folks knowing who it is, and that we exist in the work community. And I hope to continue on the momentum that we've had in the last 6 or 7 years, because I think people know Rio Negro and it's a good place and we're getting some resource, and I hope to continue that.
Hi, I'm Betsy Van Dyke. I've lived here for 38 years, I think. I represent, Bernville South and Pocket Canyon and Drake Road and Lewis Canyon, all of which are kind of lost stepchildren as well. And I'm here to bring a voice to that. I've been involved in community organizations since I became a face-to-face advocate in 1987. And I'm one of the founders of Food for Thought, Sonoma County AIDS Food Bank. And I've served on boards and commissions in the past, and I just felt this was a really nice fit. And I'm in the middle, and I'm at the beginning of my first real term, because I was kind of filling in for a lost term in the last year. So I'm happy to be here and happy to see new faces.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right.
I'm Cynthia Strecker, and I am the rep from Monte Rio and Villa Grange. I've lived here about 46 years. And I am also the liaison from the MAC to the Citizens Advisory Group in Monte Rio, Villa Grange, that's working on wastewater. And my particular interests are also workforce housing, the environment, and fire protection. And like everybody else, wanting to have have the voices of our communities raised up and brought to the powers to be, so that people get it.
Great. Mike?
Next, I'm Mike Nichols, I represent Cazadero and Hopkins Mills. This is my 6th year on the MAC, one of the original folks that were appointed back in 2017, wasn't it? I don't know. Seems like a long time, 2017.
I mean, had no idea. What we got.
Yeah, it was in March 2017 because that's when we had the flooding. So, basically, I'm interested and I've been deeply involved with rural broadband expansion. Working with, I'm on the board of directors for Safer West County. And I'm chair of the board for We Conduit, an organization that's another nonprofit that is responsible for rural expansion of broadband. Interested also in fire protection. I served as the president of the Community Services District at Cazadero for about 6 years. Was on that board for 10 years. So I'm familiar with fire apparatus, fire protection services, and so forth. So kind of a plethora of a bunch of stuff that was not related at all to my working career in the food industry for 50 years. So that kind of concludes what I have to say. That's right.
Okay, now we're gonna consent agenda.
Because this is this special meeting with our alternates here also, we have.
Oh, yeah.
Kathy, and then we have 3 online.
Right.
So, okay.
Hi, I'm Kathy Dahl. I'm the alternate, Joe's counterpart. I echo what Joe said. I've been representing my community in the Guerneville School District since the 90s. And I think Guerneville is one of the most beautiful places on the earth. So I'm here to help do whatever I can to assist our community.
And then I will ask Patty to unmute. Can you unmute yourself?
Sure. Hi, I'm Patty Thayer. I'm Cynthia's alternate for Villa Grande Monte Rio, and this is my 2nd year starting as up as an alternate. Last year, I served on the Land Use Standing Committee, the Communications Ad Hoc Committee, and the Land Acknowledgement Ad Hoc Committee, and those continue to be really the focus of my efforts, I hope, going forward. My interests align very much with Joe and Cynthia's, well, everybody's in housing, the environment, and particularly the river and climate change.
Jen?
Hi, I'm Jen Otten. I am Pip's backup for Rio Nido. And I am looking forward to jumping in and finding places where I can assist and additionally find some really great groups to join in and help out for the Russian River. I own the Russian River resource page and try to help out as much as I can in the community. And as someone else said, this is one of the best communities I think I've ever lived in.
And everyone?
And then we have Brian. And that's left.
Hi, everybody. I'm Brian Andriola. I'm the Hacienda Mac rep. I'm alternate working with Vicky. And I'm so excited to join you guys and just to get busy and all the things that I could be useful at. I grew up in West County. I moved away for my career and I always wanted to come home. And I moved back to Hacienda in 2012. And so I've been involved with my community there for quite some time. And some of the things that interest me that I get involved with is the resiliency for fire protection. Of course, it's a big topic for us. And general communication is something I gravitate towards, and just reaching people and listening to people. And then some of the other things that I'm interested in is public infrastructure, roads, and general resiliency. And I'm so happy to be part of it. So thanks so much.
Hello.
That's
Okay, great, thanks. So Supervisor Hopkins is not here tonight. She had a back issue.
But she asked me to just, welcome all of you and, let you all know how deeply grateful she is for your service on the Municipal Advisory Council. And, she threw out her back and, hopefully she'll be on the mend soon.
Okay, now we need to move on to the selection of the 2024 chair and vice chair. You know, with the consent. Oh, the minutes. Sorry. Thank you. So I hope everyone's had a chance to read the minutes. If you were here at last meeting, and we're on, oh, I know it's gonna happen. We don't have one. I was.
Quorum. But Mike was online, so we do have a quorum.
Oh, okay,
yes.
great.
So,
All right.
yeah, he did watch,
Okay,
so.
so, can I get a motion to approve the minutes from last meeting? So. It's,
So-
Mike and.
Aye.
Mike and.
Mike is the motion and Betsy is
Yeah.
the second? Sure. Okay. That's a tie.
And then can we do a roll call?
And then, yeah, let's do, and so the people that, let me just make sure who I am going to roll call. You were there, right, Cynthia?
Yeah,
Okay,
Cynthia.
so Ty, Lonnie, and Steph, okay, so, Pip,
No, stay.
oh, right, you weren't
Yeah.
there, I'm sorry. Vicky,
Approved.
Joe,
Approved.
Betsy,
Yes, approved.
Cynthia,
Yes.
and Mike,
Yes.
got it, okay,
Okay.
so.
Kathy was also on the board, because Nick wasn't present.
Right, but she's not
She's not here.
here tonight, for
She's
sure.
not here.
Yeah.
Oh, they can count.
Yeah, so we have a forum, so we're able to do
So
that.
it
So
looks like
Pip,
she's
Jane,
all
and Ty,
There's virtual.
So it's 5.
and Lonnie and Spencer
Five.
abstained. Right, Pip, Ty, Lonnie, and Spencer abstained.
Yeah.
Okay,
Okay.
very good.
All right, now we'll move on to the next section. Which is selection of the 2024 chair and vice chair. If anyone wants to make a nomination for the chair for 2024, now's the time to do it.
I would like to nominate Pip Marquez de la Plata another time.
Anyone else?
second it.
Well, I was going to nominate Vicky.
But thank you.
If you don't want to.
Do nominees have to consent?
Yeah. No, you can't get forced.
Oh, I didn't know that.
I can self-nominate myself.
I'll nominate Mike.
Pardon
I nominate Mike. Nick.
Okay. Anyone else? Okay, so we got,
So we have two motion, I think we have to do one motion. Or should we have nominations? Nominations and then discussion before there's any motion?
that's correct, sure.
Yeah, so we have two nominations. Vicky has nominated Pip. And Joe has
Right.
nominated Mike. And there aren't any seconds, but now it's discussion.
And I nominated you. But
Did you
Vicky
accept
declined
it?
chair.
Vicky declined.
Did you? Oh, I declined. chair.
Okay, but I can still keep that for the minutes.
Yeah. Okay. Discussion, anyone have any?
Do any of the nominees have anything to say?
I second that thought.
Yeah.
I'd like to hear from both nominees about what they would have in mind as chair for this coming year.
How enthusiastic they are about taking on this role.
I am quite, I was asked a bunch of times if I'd do it again or did I want to do it or not. I am more than happy to do it. I enjoy this part. I like being part of the discussion on what we're gonna do, what we're not gonna do. I'm finally learning all the process and protocol, which is kind of crazy. I think I keep meetings moving along at a good pace without being a complete, like, cutter offer of both. So I would enjoy doing it. One more time.
Are there any process changes or improvements or things you'd like to see happen in the coming year
Process with the meetings themselves.
with MAC in general? What would be your vision for?
Yeah,
growth?
I think our outreach has been better this year. I would like to see more, and I've talked about this with this folks too, is to get more support from the folks that work for the county to do some outreach for us, whether it's attending more meetings. I know a lot of us have hyper local groups like we have friends at Rio Nito. We can get them to go there to events and things and go there on behalf of the county of Sonoma, and we're there. And so they see that connection between the MAC and the county more and how it benefits them and the more trying to get there. I'd like to see a lot more of that this year. And I think we figured out how to free up some of their time to do that. So I think that's pretty important. I know we're going to talk about this a little bit later, but I do have some pretty strong thoughts about monthly versus every other month meetings, because we've done it both ways. And I'm of the belief that we can have our cake and eat it too. That if we originally did the bi-monthly meeting, so we could, or that every month meeting, so we could cover more topics. And I know by sitting and working on agendas, sometimes, I mean, there have been a couple times of like, do we have something that we should have to the MAC, it has relevance to the MAC, and we did it. And I've also heard from people that they feel like sometimes that's too much. Every month being here, there's stuff to do beforehand, stuff to do afterward, there's committee work that has to happen. I'm of the opinion that we go back to every other month, but we can call special meetings, right? So if there are important topics, or if we have too much to do, knowing that we can add a meeting in a month, we can do that. So we can schedule it every month, use special meetings as an opportunity for us to get together and discuss something if it's relevant and timely and it needs to happen. So I think we can do both. And so I think that would be a big improvement to what we're doing right now.
And I just want to say that for whoever becomes chair, I really hope that we get support for the ad hocs and the standing committee and just a little bit more maybe help and support and leadership to do what we need to do in those ad hocs.
Mike? Okay, thank you. First off, I think we need a little bit more county buy-in from the various departments. We need cooperation from county departments to work with us and with our schedule, meeting schedule, have information that's presented on a timely basis so that we can react and be effective as a municipal advisory to the Board of Supervisors. Currently, we're not getting all the support that we need from the county, and I think it's vital that we reach out and really push this. The idea of a match, what we're constructed for, what we're inaugurated for, what our needs are for, and the fact that we are making the presentation and recommendations to the Board of Supervisors for their action. So we need the cooperation of the various departments to assist us. Secondly, I'd like to formalize our meetings a little bit more. And I'm a supporter of monthly meetings. We were criticized in the beginning when we had bi-monthly meetings. And we were told by our constituents that they felt monthly meetings were more appropriate so that they could bring information forward to us. And again, this requires more public input, and it requires us as council members to seek that input from the public so that we can have effective meetings on a monthly basis. Lastly, additional topics that we could utilize, we could have some of the county departments come in and speak to us that have not spoken to us. I'm thinking about EDB, Economic Development Board. Let's talk about workforce development for the river. Let's talk about housing. Let's talk about equity issues. So these are things that I'm interested in. Fire prevention. We haven't talked about fire prevention in a while, and it's a vital interest to all of us here in Tier 3 and Tier 2 high fire threat areas. And with the governor's cut of $100 million, I think it's something that we need to stand up and take a stand on and discuss as a municipal advisory board to make recommendations to the Board of Supervisors so they in turn can get that information up to the governor's office before the May revise. So that's basically, one last thing, I did stand as board chair, council chair back in 2017. That was the inaugural year, and it was a rough year, and I just really appreciated the hard work that PIP has done over the last couple of years, so thank you.
I'd like to mention that I'd agree to the concept of monthly meetings, because I really enjoy having. Sorry.
That concluded.
Okay.
Yeah.
So before there's any other discussion from council members, there should be a motion and a second, technically.
A motion and a second for the nominations.
Yeah. Yeah,
Oh,
because
okay.
they've given a little
Got
bit
it.
of like presentation about,
Okay.
we've each given a bit of presentation about what your objectives are, but in order to have discussion, any further discussion, there should be a motion and a second
Okay.
on the floor.
So, we can start with Mike. Is there any?
Can you do both at once?
No, I think just moving that the council discuss the information
somebody-
given.
There has,
Somebody would
no,
have to make a
it's
motion to.
awkward, but somebody has to make a motion for a particular chair. And there has to be a second for further discussion to take place.
Okay. Then we'll want to make a motion.
So I move to make him chair since I nominated him.
And is there a second?
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Yeah. Betsy.
And since I've nominated Mike, I will move.
We have to,
No.
we have
Oh, we have
to,
to
we
vote.
have to discuss and vote on this
Oh,
one before there can be another motion.
Okay, so do we do roll call? Is that what we do?
It doesn't have to be roll call, but there can be further discussion at this point amongst the,
Oh.
now we, if council members want to discuss
Okay.
this, that can happen.
Okay.
And when there's no further discussion, then it doesn't have to be a roll call vote. It can
Okay.
just be a vote.
But if it's a vote, we have to call for public comment.
Yes.
Correct. All right, does anyone have anything to discuss? No?
As long as you go back to the meetings.
We're talking about that later.
So now.
So-
Public comment.
So now public comment.
Does anyone in the audience have a?
And we're just discussing Pip, right? We're not discussing Mike?
Correct.
Okay. Thank you. I adore you as a human being and, as a leader, and I love how you have handled the, issue of people talking too long.
Yeah.
And now I'm on this side, I know to be receptive to that. I do not agree with you about the every other month meetings. I think it's really important to have the monthly meetings. And that would be the only objection I have, in terms of your perception of this. And, I tend to move in this direction, to Mike, for his particular board experience and the items that he mentioned specifically that I feel really important. And it's not that I don't love you or enjoy your leadership, I just want what he offers. So.
Anyone else?
And I don't see any hands online. If anybody online would like to make a comment at this point, raise your hand.
Okay,
There's no further public comment.
so now you vote or,
Now there's a vote.
okay,
Yes. So all votes in favor.
oh, okay, so all in favor of, we're doing that, and do it in.
Correct.
Again.
So all those.
Where your hands?
Yeah. So we have
Okay.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Okay.
And nay? Raise your hand if you nay.
Abstain.
Abstain.
It's okay.
And you-
You guys.
And any,
Wait till you get to the ground.
so any nay, any
Well,
abstentions?
I abstain.
One abstention, but I'm only
One
counting 6 here, so that's all.
A yay is a yay, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah. So 5 yeses, right?
Mhm.
And I have 1 abstention, but there's 9 of you there, so that's why.
Oh, 5 is majority.
I know, for my records,
Yes,
I'm
shipping
telling
fee, I
you,
think
6
that.
people voted. So can I see the yeas, the yeses again? We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 yes, and then Cynthia, did you vote?
I abstain.
You abstained, 2
Okay.
abstentions, and
I'll
Joe,
abstain.
and you, okay, so we have 4 abstentions.
I'll abstain.
So that's 4 abstentions, is that right? And 5 yes. Okay,
That makes sense.
thank you. I'm sorry.
Are we?
So Pip will continue to be the chair.
We can do that.
We need a motion for a vice chair.
Okay, motion for, vice chair,
Well,
Or a nomination.
the nomination for vice chair.
I'd like to nominate Mike to be vice chair, if you would be willing.
Willing.
I'll second.
I was gonna nominate Vicky.
Thank you. I would defer to Mike for vice chair.
Okay,
So that was made by Cynthia. And it was seconded by.
that's,
Becky.
Becky.
Okay,
and she declined that, so is there anyone else wants to make a nomination? No, so we can just vote, right?
well, just if there's any.
If there's any discussion.
Okay.
Public comment.
I have a question, actually. The vice chair, the role is for the vice chair to fill in when the chair is not available.
Yes.
So yes and no, so, Lisa has been the vice chair this last year, and she's participated in every, agenda setting meeting. she and I talk as well about different things going on and like we should talk about this or not. So she's been very participatory in that. Any public comment? No?
No, one question, in terms of agenda setting, so Mike would, like, the things that he would like to see on the agenda, he would discuss with you and the board and the agenda setting meetings, correct?
It happens, well, that's on the agenda too, but with the council, the public, provide input on what they'd like to see on the agenda. And we get that throughout the period in between meetings. And then we have, like, I have sat with the fifth district folks and Lisa in this case. And then we all have meetings every month, sometimes twice, to figure out what dates going to the agenda. And sometimes there's stuff that is very, very timely, that we try to maneuver into the meeting and figure out timing and how long things are gonna take. And so it is a public council members, chair, vice chair, fifth district, that
That's
Yeah, and originally, part of the vice chair's job, vice chair, was to always sit in and be part of the agenda setting.
Yeah, correct. Yeah.
Stuff, so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That answer the question?
yes, thank you.
Any other points of discussion? So, Matt, formal nomination in a second, or are we good?
We have a motion and a second, so you can just have a vote. Yes.
All in favor of Mike being vice chair?
Okay.
Okay.
Now we're on to the Brown aspect.
Okay.
Presentation. For those of you in the audience, we don't have great AV here, so the council up here is gonna be able to watch it on here. But we have, the presentation slides are within this agenda. Oh, it didn't work.
Oh. Still.
In my dry run at work.
So quick question, once a month, you were talking about that, is it always the second Thursday of the month? What is the monthly
Yes.
meeting, second Thursday of the month?
Correct.
Cool.
We alternate sites, sometimes I'm moving on in the library,
Okay.
or here, these are the two most common sites. Oh,
So we've been cutting narrow.
And that,
And Montreal.
and Montreal.
Montreal currently is booked every Thursday in the health center.
In the health center.
This place.
Yeah. For sure.
It'd be lovely if they could get that buzz to go away so we could hear you.
What bugs?
Well, I can talk about it.
No,
It's not,
like this.
but this isn't showing up on your screen, is it?
No.
No, it's showing up for the people on Zoom. I don't know why, it's not showing up for you. Let me just,
Sure, mine, but she's
Yeah.
there on the side.
Well, we have it.
well, but we have this.
Oh, don't we have,
It's printed out.
we have it printed out?
You do have it printed out, but let me just give it one.
Does anyone have, I think we're okay calling with our paper.
Okay.
As long as you can see it on Zoom.
Okay. Very good.
Okay.
So. I. So. So the reason we have the Brown Act is to provide transparency with all of the happenings that take place in a government body. And the Lower Russian River MAC, you're all appointed, you've all taken your oath of office. And so a lot of the things that we're gonna go over, you don't have to memorize. And I'll let you know, a lot of it, I'll just keep the structure, but just so that you understand, this isn't to make things difficult.
But it does.
It can, but on the other hand too, it is also designed, or the intent is to make sure that decisions aren't made without the public being able to know what's being talked about. So that's why we have agendas. That's why we don't talk about things at a meeting if it hasn't been put on the agenda. So you'll hear, as far as that goes, we might, if the new folks, we might correct you, but you'll learn those parts as we go. And a lot of that is staff will provide the structure around that. So what is a meeting? A meeting is a congregation of a majority of our group. So the MAC has 9 members and 7 alternates. And so a majority would be 5 of any of you. So even though there's 16 people total, if more than 5 of you, alternates or representatives, full representatives, or, regular representatives, were to have a conversation about something that you think the MAC should take action on outside of an agendized meeting, that would be a Brown Act violation. So if there's something that you feel like you'd like to talk about the body with, then just ask to put it on the agenda. But you guys can talk to each other about, if you run into each other at the park, and you can talk about families and hobbies and things like that. But if you're going to talk about actions, that anything that the MAC body would take action on, that needs to take place now that you're a representative within the structure of the meeting. And that's what we would call a serial meeting. So a serial meeting would be if 2 people have a conversation about something, and then one of them talks to somebody else, someone talks to somebody else, someone talks to somebody else. So you really have to be careful about not having a series of conversations about something that's going to be on the agenda. And that can be awkward. It can feel awkward because, you all care about this stuff and you've all stepped into this for the reason to engage. But think about it from the perspective of the public not being able to watch those conversations. And if you just go back to that, that's the reason for that.
Clarification though, Deb.
Yeah.
As I understand it, this majority is what's important for a serial meeting too. So if I have some questions and call him, or want to talk about it and call him, that's okay, as I understand it.
But I can't call Pip, he calls Vicky.
Correct, right, so you just want, yeah, so, and you are a body of 9, so that's a pretty good number, and that's also when we talk later about putting together a, ad hoc. That's why ad hocs can't be more than 4 people, so that's correct, you just need to think about if somebody talks to you and then you talk to somebody else and talk to somebody else, just keeping awareness of how many people. But you do have some flexibility. It's not like you're a group of 3. Nobody can talk to each other. If it's a group of 3, 5, only 2 people can talk to each other.
Can I ask how do agendas get set then? Like, how do you add information to the new meeting?
Yeah, so there's time, at every meeting that you can bring up, this is something I'd like on the agenda. You can reach out to staff and say, this is something I'd like to see on the agenda. Or you can reach out to the chair or vice chair and say, this is something. Yeah, I would say reach out to the chair and staff if it's between meetings, and you can bring it up during a meeting, we can create an item that's, future agenda items, or you can just bring it up during your council member comment and say, here's the thing I've heard in my community, could we agendize this? And we couldn't talk about the thing at that time, but we can talk about agendizing it at that time.
And staff doesn't count as part of the.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can always reach out. So now we're on this is a new piece. So some of you have already had Brown Act training, and county council has created a new presentation for this because social media is an important thing to keep in mind when it comes to serial meetings and communication with each other. Probably the safest thing to do is not like and comment on Mac business on social media. You can and should be sharing information with the community on social media. So I'm not saying, don't use it, but don't talk about your opinions on social media. And, sometimes, like we have the Lower Russian River Map Facebook page, and sometimes people will post things on there that are inaccurate or not in alignment with the jurisdiction of the Lower Russian River Map. We can't remove those things. You can certainly write a comment back explaining this isn't the venue for that, but we can't remove them because it's a governmental page. And we cannot, if you are posting information on your personal Facebook, sharing like to the public, and you get trolls or whatnot, and you can't block people once you are a representative. But you can share to your friends only. So just keep that in mind. If you're going to invite, that by sharing publicly, you can't then remove people because now you're a public official. What else did I want to say about this one? Does anyone have questions about it? Yeah.
You can go first.
Oh, I just wanted to say, would it have been appropriate to comment on Beth's posting this week, which had the wrong date on it?
Well, that's just not a representative.
Was it on our Facebook page?
Yeah.
And I was just like, should I respond to this? Should I say something? But I sort of figured you'd figure it out eventually.
And also, that's a factual correction, right? And it's not something that you're going to be making a decision on. So I would say, yes, you can correct. And now you can engage with Vesta as much as you want because she's not part of that.
When it was called staff and staff can direction.
Yeah.
And yes, any of this, you can always ask. And Spencer.
just out of curiosity, can you not block anyone for any reason, or is it just you can't block people on things related to the Mac or Mac business?
Yeah.
I think you can't, well,
It's like,
that's a good question for county council.
You told me I couldn't block. What's his name?
Right, that was something that came up.
No, he was going on my music show site
Right.
and blaspheming me.
Wow.
Well, that's.
And I blocked them, got in trouble for it.
Right, well. Let me clarify that. You mean like if somebody that has nothing to do with the Mac is just somebody that,
Well, you know what he talks about. So.
no, but this is Spencer's question is a little
just
bit
like
different.
in
Yeah.
my social media life, if there was someone just completely unrelated to even Bernville or Sonoma County.
Right.
Can I block that person, or am I, as a public official, not allowed to block anyone?
That's a really good question.
If they're outside of jurisdiction.
If they're outside of the jurisdiction, let me clarify
I'm
that.
just curious.
Yeah,
I mean,
and I'll let you all know, what the answer is on that.
And can we ask specifically on that, if it's not related to a Mac,
Yeah. but they
issue,
follow-
Right, they're just posting.
if they're just
on there.
posting and trolling or whatever. Well, you can ask council, but I'm
I'll
pretty sure we
double
can
check
block
with-
if
yeah.
it's,
And if they're outside of our jurisdiction,
yes,
I'm sure it's heckin'.
yes.
Okay, great.
The other thing too about, like,
There should be an
Bernville, some
inquiry.
castles, we can't use that for general posting now because those are membership pages.
And that's something that we're gonna talk about, membership page. Yeah.
Wait, yeah,
I just am curious if there's any inquiry into whether someone is acting under their personal social media
In the public page.
and their, I mean, I don't know, I'm not a member of Facebook anymore, so I'm not gonna be participating in the Mac Facebook page. And I don't imagine that any of us have Mac social media accounts.
Some of us
So I
do.
don't know if it's prohibited.
Yeah.
But if I was gonna comment on social media as a member of this council, I would create an account to do that.
And that
And keep
is
my
a recommendation
personal
from
Social media completely separate.
That is the recommendation.
Uh-huh.
However, one of the reasons you all are stepping into being MAC members is because you have a already existing
Yeah.
rich community network.
Right,
So there's a little bit of a disconnect with that, because you're not gonna duplicate your whole,
sure. So, I mean, what's the governing body that determines whether Joe's blocking some guy that's giving him grief on his music page is verboten or not? Who decides that?
county council.
County council.
So, yeah, I guess if you're gonna
And-
ask some questions.
Yeah,
That would be one I would like some clarification on
on,
whether I can block somebody that's giving me grief on my personal social media account as opposed to somebody who's giving me grief or discussion on my account that's related to the Mac.
right, and the answer is you cannot block them on your personal account. However, the question I'm going to get clarity on is if it's completely unrelated and out of jurisdiction. I just want to get a little bit of clarity
Right.
around that. But it's not about whether it's your personal page or a page that you set up.
Right.
You could set up a page specifically for Mac, but,
Well, yeah, it makes sense actually, that if it's related to Mac business,
Right,
then you shouldn't be able to block anybody.
correct.
correct. And,
But I mean, let's say, I'm a Green Bay Packers fan. And if the Green Bay Packers beat the Dallas Cowboys this week, they're gonna play the Niners. And if somebody's giving me grief as a Niners fan about the Packers on my social media,
right.
I don't wanna not be able to block that.
I think you can, but she's gonna get credit.
I'm gonna have to, Packers.
Just an example.
Just damage yourself.
So Mike's question about or comment about some pages, and I think that's coming up later in the presentation, but I'm gonna just address it, and then if it comes, when it comes up, we can address it again. So if information is being shared out on a, only on a program, on a platform that requires membership, then that can't be done. The Guerneville Locals page, I think in order to post on it, you have to be a member, but I think anybody can see it.
Correct.
So I think that that's okay. I think that is permitted.
And this serial thing applies to emails as well. So you will see, like, I will send out, or Debbie will send out, or any one of us might send out an email and we want to inform everyone of something. Do not reply all, right? So as soon as I reply all, then you started the serial meeting.
That's why it should just be easy.
Yeah.
No.
Then we can't do that either.
You can't blind.
No.
No,
No.
we have to make it public who we are communicating with. On official Mac stuff,
Yeah.
right? So, but, and I usually write in there, do not reply to all, to remember. You can reply directly to the person, right? And you could reply to the person and the county staff members, but you can't reply it.
The safest way really to do it is direct the information to staff and have staff send the email out. And that way you're safe.
So have we been incorrect in our community when we've done scheduling?
With,
That-
okay,
That's,
in an ad, that's separate and ad hoc, and technically, scheduling is an okay thing, but for safety, what we do, I would recommend that nobody send something out to all MAC reps.
Right.
Send it to me, I'll send it out to all the MAC reps, and then that will be the safest way. That's just the best way to do it overall. So we have a question from Jen, because she runs the Guerneville Locals site, and, she wants to know, how does that affect if I share? Should I post and turn comments off? No, you can share, that is fine. You can share things, just don't chime in on your opinions about things.
Yeah, I post on Guerneville Locals, Monte Rio, Forestville, but I don't.
Yeah,
Nomination.
And
Here's the fact, it's
Yeah.
a meeting, it's a.
And that it should be, and I don't want this presentation to scare you all into not sharing information, because that is a big part of your role. So it's just about getting into a conversation, about something that this MAC would weigh in on. And you can just keep those opinions to yourself, but always feel free to share information out. But even a simple, like if Joe shares something on Guerneville Locals and then Spencer likes it, right? That's already starting that chain, right? And so just, and you know, that doesn't add anything to it. Or it doesn't add as much to it as it takes away because of it being a Brown Act violation. So that's just something that, just to be aware of, and this is fairly new. I don't think this has been part of the social media part, okay, because this is a new.
yeah, we did it last year.
Okay.
We did talk.
Okay,
The other thing is too, even on the county, or your county Facebook page, don't comment.
Yeah.
So in other words, even if it's a county page, don't add any comments and don't add any icons or anything. So
It's gonna be, it's one of the hardest, it's still hard to,
just bite your tongue.
cause you gotta fight, and like, even in these meetings, right? We'll go to the public for comment. That does not mean that we as council members chime in or answer a question, right? It's only when it's a specific thing that says this is a discussion that we discuss, otherwise we get into the change into pronoun. Because sometimes people sit out there and they go. Yeah, answer.
Yeah, right.
What I'm saying.
So no more liking Linda Hawkins.
No more what?
Like on a serious question, like I follow Linda on Instagram, like I shouldn't like her.
If there are things, I mean, you know, if there's things that are gonna come up for the map, I mean, sometimes, you know, they're just like, you know, charming things, pictures of your kids, and you can, yeah. Yeah, but if there are items that are going to, that could potentially be map items, and if you have questions, don't ever hesitate to reach out to me with questions, and if I don't know the answer, I'll find out from county council. I'm a bit of a nerd on these things,
Yeah.
Mike and I are a bit nerd on these things, and, so if I don't know the answer, I'll be genuinely curious and want to find out and share that information back with you, so, eventually I will know it all. And so will you. So here, a member may communicate separately on social media to answer questions and provide information to the public or solicit information from the public. But only if you don't discuss that with other members. So you can, if somebody makes a comment on the Lower Russian River Map Facebook page, you can private message them. And you can say, I've just private messaged you, happy to chat about this, especially if there's somebody who's in your jurisdiction, you'll want to reach out to them. So keeping an eye, if you are a social media user, it can be very helpful. It feels like everybody is on social media, but in fact, a big part of the communications group is coming up with other ways, because not everybody is on social media. But that is a really, you know, if you're on it and you see people with questions and, you know, you want to reach out to them and engage with them and get more information, don't hesitate doing that. You just want to be mindful of making it a serial meeting and letting a majority of the members or a quorum of the members is what it is, because there are, a quorum is 5, but there's 16 of you. So you have to keep in mind the alternates also when you're doing that. So then, and as Pip just mentioned, we're now on a next slide about what is not a serial meeting. And so contacting county staff is not part of that at all. We're not part of your quorum, so anybody could, but staff shouldn't be getting, and this isn't really, map is more of an advisory, so this is you know, the Board of Supervisors has final decisions that they're making, but in general, one thing you should know about Brown Act is that even though they can't talk to each other, also staff can't say, well, how are you feeling about this? How are you? And how are you? And the kind of like, it's called polling the members, and that's also not allowed. And that's something really for us as staff to be aware of. Also, so if you attendance at a social or a ceremonial event where no map business is being discussed, you're all allowed to go to that. If there's some big festival or something, you're all allowed to be there. And if you start to talk to each other, you don't talk about map business. And it's probably not a great idea to like all bunch together, like, here, we're the map, you know, try to spread out in an event like that.
We could all say, hey, we should get to know each other. Yeah. Go out to dinner together, but not talk about that.
I'm not sure if like an actual dinner, what we're talking about is, what this slide is about is, if there's already an event and you all go to an event. I think it would need to be agendized
If we were all gonna go, we need to be. Yeah.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
I do. Even though, you know, there's like a commitment not to, but you also have to think about perception and, it might be hard not to talk about anything that, because that's kind of like your common. But you can get together with one another and get to know each other, especially within your region. I think that's a really important thing to do. Yeah, but yeah, so if there were any conferences or public meetings, you don't have to worry, oh, is it
So no
okay for me to
progressive
go?
dinners either.
No,
No cereal.
So the next slide is about noticing and posting agendas. So really, this is to give you a heads up so that you can understand what we do as staff, but you don't have to be responsible for adhering to this. But just so you know, agendas are required to be posted 72 hours in advance of a regular meeting. A special meeting agendas can be posted with 24 hour notice. For the map, I usually get it posted, I aim
For a week.
for a week,
About a week.
Yeah.
but I always get it out by 6 days because I want you all to have the weekend to review it. So I'll get it out on Friday. There may be pieces that we're still waiting from other departments or whatnot. Their deadline is, yeah, they need to get it to me so that I can get it online by Monday at 5, because that's a 72-hour notice. So sometimes you all get things before it's posted for the public, but it's required to be posted 72 hours in advance. And I endeavor to get as much as I possibly can.
And it's been better, because at the beginning, it was
Yeah.
all,
Yeah,
I mean, we were
absolutely.
razor thin
With when it got
when it got.
posted, yeah. So I give a really big cushion so that,
Yes, thank you.
And we try to meet to accommodate that schedule
Yes,
for our, when you're setting.
right. And then the agendas have to be publicly accessible and distributed in advance to people who request copies. So everything really does get up online, which is great because that hasn't always, been the case. But an interesting, fun fact is that the county is committed to making sure that all documents that are published on the website are also accessible to people using screen readers, which means that documents have to be what you might hear me talk about. Well, we need time to get it remediated. And so they go through York County, and so we have to get those. So sometimes that's what the lag is. We get the presentation. I can send it to you on Friday, but it's still getting remediated until Monday, and then posted online.
What about the physical copies? Paper copies?
We post the paper copy at the Board of Supervisors at the meeting location. And anybody who wants one can go to the Board of Supervisors and ask for it also. If like the backup documents, if for some reason they aren't online because they're too complex to be remediated, then they would be available at the Board of Supervisors reception. Also, every agenda for regular meeting must allow members of the public to speak on any item of interest as long as it's within the subject area of the body. And that's not required at a special meeting. So if a special meeting is called, then it doesn't necessarily have, it's not required to have public comment. You would still have public comment on agenda items, but not on items that are not on the agenda. And then before a body makes votes, the public must be allowed to speak on an item. And the MAC can adopt a policy to limit public comment on a topic. I think we have 2 minutes. And, also that could be, based on the amount of time that's available. The chair, that's always within the discretion of the chair to, to make changes to that. And also I should add, all of our meetings, this meeting right now is being, simultaneously interpreted in Spanish and recorded. And if, somebody who is using a interpreter to, for public comment, they get double the amount of time, at least double the allotted time, because they speak and then the interpreters speak. So, but that is built into the rules. That makes perfect sense, but it's also in the rules.
Question, Debbie.
Yes.
We had this come up once and I've seen it handled differently at different public meetings. And that is, say we are hearing something that's pretty contentious and we have a bunch of folks in the audience want to talk. But, and so they've been allotted a minute or 2 minutes for whatever each. Can people in the audience say, think to themselves, I'm not the world's best public speaker, but I know that Mike is. So Mike can take my 2 minutes.
No.
I know we said no to that, but I've seen it done in other public meetings.
No,
this time.
No, that's not the way it is normally done. I don't think that's specifically a Brown Act thing, but I don't think that, the chair needs to allow that. And, you know, for keeping things moving forward, it's,
I mean, the other reason too is that it can lead to a setup to some degree. Where someone is saying, I'm gonna yield my time, I'm gonna yield.
Yeah.
So then this person all of a sudden has a whole bunch of time, and that's not fair to anyone else. Right?
they do that in Congress.
Yeah.
Right, and I think that's where people get the idea about that. But the purpose here is that each individual gets an opportunity to speak. If they don't want an opportunity to speak, they don't own that opportunity.
Okay.
But in Congress, they do. They think they do.
They get them, well,
Yeah.
we're not Congress. Thank God.
Any other questions on what we were just talking about? I'm gonna move on and talk about the teleconferencing rules, because this is something that has been, you know, a state of flux over the past several years. And it'll probably continue to be in a little bit of state of flux if we're lucky, because California Assembly is looking at maybe loosening things up so that members who are in bodies that are composed of solely appointed members there may be some legislation coming through that would allow a little bit more flexibility and being able to attend remotely. But what we'll talk about now is what the options are for teleconferencing as they stand right now. What has always been available? Well, if there's a proclaimed state of emergency, there is legislation right now that does allow some remote meeting. However, chances are if that happened here, we wouldn't have to cancel or postpone our meeting because we wouldn't have power. And so we wouldn't be able to do teleconferencing either. But if there were some kind of state of emergency declared, then there could be some flexibility. But mostly what we have is the traditional Brown Act teleconferencing requirements, which allows a member to attend remotely as long as the place where they are attending from, first of all, is published on the agenda. So we would need to know about that well in advance. And then they post on their door the meeting agenda, and anybody could come in from the public and be there. So generally, people wouldn't do that at their home. We had some members of the Coast Map.
Lisa's done it in Australia.
Okay,
Yeah,
that's interesting, yes.
nobody's doing.
But we've had some members of our COSMAC, it's a very large, spread out area, and there were some travel difficulties. And so they just went to a fire station, and we published it on the agenda, and we had a second remote location, and the public could come. They had a owl there, and we did that a couple of times. And so that's the traditional, and that's always, even before the pandemic, that's always been the way to do it. You do have to have a quorum of the members within the boundaries of the district. So you can't all go on vacation, but one person could go to Australia and do this. So in these also, you don't have to memorize them. I'm giving you an overview. If you can't attend a meeting, you can call me up as soon as you know, and we can talk through what the options are. So this is just a brief overview. Don't feel like you have to become the complete expert on it, but that's one option. And then the other option is we have AB 2449, and that is set to sunset, January 1st, 2026. So we have this for at least these next couple of years. And at least a quorum of the body has to attend from one location for that one. And then up to twice a year in this circumstance, maybe less if we go to every other month, a member can teleconference for two different there's two different varieties. There's just cause and emergency circumstances. So we'll talk about that in a minute. And also keeping in mind, the other option, if a member can't attend, is I think everybody, we're full up on alternates now. So you can, so that's also another option. You don't have to attend every meeting if your alternate can attend for you. That's another, that's also available. And when a meeting, and I didn't mention this with the earlier teleconferencing, but anytime there's members attending by teleconference, all votes are by roll call. So that's why do we need roll call? Because we're so used to that from the pandemic. But anytime somebody's attending by way of the AB 2449, we automatically revert to that, and people have to keep their screen on, and they have to announce if there's anybody 18 years age or older in the room with them. But if one of you ends up needing to use that, I'll give you a little instructions immediately before that meeting so that you can comply with it. And so this slide is the difference between the just cause and the emergency circumstances. For just cause, the member just needs to let the body know as soon as possible. It could be at the start of the meeting of their need to participate remotely. You would want to let me know so that we can plan the meeting accordingly, but it doesn't have to be on the agenda. So a qualifying reason for just cause could be a child care or caregiving need of a child, parent, grandparent, grandchild, sibling, spouse, or domestic partner that requires them to participate remotely, a contagious illness that prevents the member from attending in person, a need related to a physical or mental disability not otherwise accommodated for, or travel while on official business of the MAC, which I don't think we do much of that. And then, so that's the just cause, and then emergency circumstances requires a vote. So you would request that the body allow you to attend remotely. And that's a physical or family medical emergency that prevents a member from attending in person. You don't have to disclose what the diagnosis is. And so that's just a separate, just depending on what the circumstances are for your need to attend remotely, we would determine if one or the other is the one that applies.
I have a question.
Yes,
So I've talked with you about this, I think that, so I have diagnosed night blindness, so I can't drive at night. And I think that is a disability, certainly disables me quite a bit. Luckily, I have Vesta who drives me everywhere. But what's the difference between that and the just cause, or me saying, it's dark out, so I can't attend the March meeting? What would be the difference? Where would I say, like, I need to come in remotely?
right.
Is it a just cause issue that I have night blindness, or is it an emergency issue? And therefore I have to.
I think it would fall under just cause, a need related to a physical disability not otherwise accommodated.
That's how I read it.
Yeah,
But we have to vote on that, right?
no.
Oh, okay, great.
That's- that's something has to-
The problem with that is you're only limited to two.
Yes, no, I understand all that part.
Right, so if,
The darkest months.
if you have an alternate now. So so you have that flexibility also, that your alternate could attend for you, but you could use you could use that. Yeah. So I mentioned, you would need, and these are things that I need to be aware of. I would set up the technology, but it would need to be on Zoom. We would need to make sure that you stay on the screen the entire time. But that's all stuff that staff would take care of. You can't turn off your camera.
Well, you can bring you up.
So that's the AB 2449, and that's not to say that, now that, since March 2023, meetings are required to be held in person, but remote public participation may continue, and it has. And so we have public in attendance at, most of our meetings online. And, that's something that is really important to Supervisor Hopkins, to make these meetings as accessible as possible. So we, while you all have to be here in person, barring these exceptions, that doesn't at all disallow us to broadcast and have remote participation from the public, just to clarify. I think when things first went back to that after March, there were some bodies that were confused about that, whether they were allowed to continue to have public participation remotely. And as long as the technology is there and the staff can manage it, then, and we have the resources, then we can do it. So that is what we are doing. And which is why, when we seek locations for these meetings, they have to be in an ADA accessible location, and they have to have internet. So those are our two requirements for our MAC meetings. And so, this is the slide about the next door and open and accessible. Open and accessible requirements. So this is the part about, I just mentioned that we have to have ADA accessible buildings to hold our meetings in, because otherwise they're not open and accessible. Social media platforms should be open and accessible, free of charge, and do not require approval for participation. And so Nextdoor is not open and accessible because it requires approval to join. Private groups on Facebook that require approval of a moderator to join are not open and accessible. So actually,
So that's
but I think that I'm gonna double check with county council on that, because I think there's a difference between join to post and be able to view. And I think that as long as the public can view, it's okay. But I will let you all know if I find out otherwise.
Yeah, that just makes no sense.
Because that's a good forum for us to get information.
Right.
Share information, but we're not restricting anybody by having additional opinions to sharing.
Right. And Jen just clarified that, during the locals is private, but the resources page is public. So I'll just do a little bit of double checking to make sure that we're doing everything right along that lines.
Could we circle back on internet connectivity? We had a real problem at Elmwood High School.
We did,
And,
we did.
This is
Yes.
not the first or second time it's happened. It's problematic, and we may have to consider using the facility
Yeah.
for as well.
Right. I did towards the end get a different Wi-Fi to get onto, a password. They gave us the public one at first.
Right.
Yeah.
And then there were a lot of things going on. So, but we need to have more,
Correct. And we did
more
have a
stable
20 gig bandwidth going into Elmwood High School. What was an active high school? I don't know if that's been dropped.
Well, it worked on the first meeting we had it on.
Yeah, it did,
It did,
it
right.
did. I think that was because we were on the private one,
Yeah.
so,
That's what-
and we were able to, yes. That was the problem, and there was a game going on, so we'll make sure that we have better Wi-Fi if we meet there again. So that is the open and accessible. And then in the packet, there are websites for resources on any of these. If you feel like drilling down and reading more, these links are there. You can learn more about them. And,
And if you got an hour and a half, you can take the Brown Act, the
Training.
training on the state website.
yeah. And so, yeah, they don't talk here about the AB 817, so that's the one, it's going to, the, local government committee, I think, tomorrow or next week. Do you remember the date on that, Mike? It was
Next week.
next week.
Yeah.
So we'll have more information about that if they do make that.
Is that the one to create more flexibility?
To create more flexibility in bodies that, are fully advisory, right? So that brings us to the end of our,
So when you're.
Now it's working. Now it's working.
what?
It's working now.
The screen is working.
Are you seeing you're seeing the map? I just couldn't share my presentation.
Oh.
So now you can see Pat.
Okay, so I know we asked questions along the way, but are there?
I do see a question online from Brian.
Let me go to council first.
Okay. Oh, Brian is. Okay.
Yeah, anyone here have any other questions you want to ask? Okay, Brian?
Yeah.
Okay, thanks. My question is, I just want to go back to the basics on what's the proper etiquette with engaging with the community. I'm already in a semi-public role within my neighborhood. People know me, they know my first name, they know my dog's name. When they come up and talk to me about, hey, I have something I want to tell you that I think you should bring to the MAC. What's the proper way to respond? That's my question. What's a nice, polite way of responding that both acknowledges their concern, but gives them something to.
You're talking about someone from the public that's not on the MAC, asking you to
Yeah,
bring up something to
right.
the MAC. Talk to them.
Yeah.
'Cause that's the
Okay.
power of what.
That's what I assume, but I'm a little worried. Yeah, I assumed that, but I was also a little worried about what I can and cannot tell them.
No, so like we have monthly meetings in Rio, And we have a section on the MAC, and I talk about what's coming up, what's happening. They ask me questions. They say, can you, whatever, right? That's perfectly fine, because you're getting input from your hyperlocal community.
But you're not supposed to have an opinion.
That's right. Okay.
No, I'm sharing what the information.
Yeah, and I think you
Thank
can share your opinion with an individual, just not your colleagues on the map. You're not you're allowed to talk with individuals that aren't on the map, that they aren't, the public isn't bound by the Brown Act. Only you appointed individuals are the ones that are bound by this.
Okay, I understand. Thank you.
So you probably be better off like not stating an opinion. Yeah.
If you're the only one there from the MAC and it's a discussion about your particular neighborhood.
God, I wish somebody would fix this road.
Yeah. Yeah, right.
Exactly.
Every day I have that discussion.
Pick that up for 2 minutes.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, I think you can have an opinion.
Yeah, and that certainly would not be a violation of the Brown Act.
Okay.
So.
Anyway, okay, anyone else from council? Anyone else, public? Any questions, comments on the Brown Act?
Is there somebody?
Oh, Suki. Hi, Suki.
So if you can hear us?
You may be referring to me. I'm not Suki.
Oh.
Michelle.
Did you have a question?
Mute, I got it. I think I got it. Sorry. I think I'm unmuted now. What an excruciating presentation, but I'm happy I sat through it because I actually learned some things. And I've been working with the Brown Act for many, many years. So thank you for that. I just want to emphasize that the whole purpose of the Brown Act is to make sure that all the deliberations of a public body are taken in public. So that we've talked about tonight a lot of things you can do and things you can't do, but the whole purpose is to make the decisions in public. They're supposed to be open and comments are supposed to be open, but you can talk to other people on the MAC. You just can't talk to a quorum of people. That's, I guess, my main comment. Thank you.
Is there someone else? Okay.
No, Brian's hand is still up, but I think that's from before, right? You don't have another question? Okay. Great.
Great, thank you. Okay.
Thank you for indulging me.
I actually do have another question now that, so I'm previously in I'm involved in a restoration project that I'm working with a lot of people who are on staff with the county, Public Works, Johannes, and a few engineers. I get that. I guess I just have to be careful what we talk about. Is that right?
No,
I'm sorry. I'm not trying to add confusion, but when you talk about staff and what you can and can't talk with staff, like I'm already in the middle of a major infrastructure project that requires my participation. So where do I draw the discretionary lines with that?
You can talk to staff about anything at any time.
Yeah.
It's only
Okay.
other people that are on the MAC, either as alternates for the members themselves. And the number is 5. So the rule of thumb, really, in my head, is even though you can talk to 4 people, technically, whenever I have, if there's 3.
Yeah, I understand. Okay.
4 total, including yourself.
Yeah.
So you can talk to 3.
Correct. Yeah, I'm talking about a total, but what I always think is like, if there's 3 of us, start to think about the Brown Act.
Got you.
But
Thank you.
staff, but county staff is not part of that at all. You can talk to as many county staff about anything you want, anytime you want.
Oh, that's where I was confused. Okay, thank you so much. I think I'm good.
Yeah.
Okay. The calendar. Okay, we started to a little bit talk about this. We used to do once a month. I mean, every other month. We moved it to every month. The idea was to be able to cover more topics and have shorter meetings. That was the purpose of it. We've gone to monthly meetings, and there has been some folks that have said, do we have to do monthly meetings or not do monthly meetings? I made a statement that I think we could do it with every other month, using that, knowing that we would do more than 6 meetings, because we would call special meetings for the time. That's just my opinion. I'm not married to that or anything, but that's what this.
Can I weigh in on that
And then
too?
I actually think you should, because there are some staff issues that we have to think about. Because they are doing, remember, they're doing coastal MAC, they're doing the river MAC, they're doing land use for both, correct? Well, yeah, so there's staff limitations that put burden on staff when we go to monthly meetings as well, that Debbie can talk about.
Yeah, so I did do a little bit of research to see, you know, how this evolved. And when I went back to look at the discussion on going to monthly, the discussion was around the possibility of going to monthly and incorporating land use into the monthly meetings. And then the way it ended up evolving, we kept both. Of course, this year we didn't have very many land use meetings, but we're looking towards making a better system so that we are having the regular meetings. So assuming that we have those land use meetings, they would be on the alternate months of when there's a MAC meeting. So there would still be the meeting every month. And this year, the ad hocs really were very robust and did a really, you know, a lot of work. I was able to participate in some of them, but not all of them. And I think that that staff participation could really help move the ad hocs along in a little bit, you know, faster, more traction kind of way. And so it's been a recommendation from staff, is where this came from, to explore returning to the alternate months. And keeping in mind that special meetings could be called on those off months if something came up. It would give more time for agenda development. It kind of, you know, as soon as the meeting is over, we're already like next week looking at what would be on the next agenda and reaching out to staff. And we think that we could put more robust meetings together and get more county departments involved if we had a little bit more time in between meetings. So that's where it's coming from. And
remember, but we still have meetings every month. It's just one would be regular meeting, one would be land use meeting.
correct.
Right, so the MAC would still be meeting every month. It's just the topics are separated from land use and other stuff.
Well, I feel like, as well as the things that you mentioned, the, you know, we're doing this because we want shorter meetings and blah, blah. In my mind, there's another reason for having meetings every month, and that's more or less momentum. Okay, people get kind of used to something if it is once a month, and when I say people, I'm meaning particularly the public. It seems like, yeah, okay, we're doing that, and that's when, and yeah, maybe I'll go, and if I miss it this month, I'll go down next month and have my say about it, or whatever, you know. And I think that when we go every other month. It's just kind of like, well, we do something and then they're gone. You know, and yeah, we do come back, but so much has happened in the meantime that everybody's sort of, you know, the public has very much kind of forgotten about us and who we are and what we're doing and all that sort of thing. Now, I can't speak to the staff needs, and I think that's important. But I think that for our ability to reach out to the public and be more of a real body for them to relate to, I feel like we sort of need to be here every month. Now, I could see us on every other month going to the first hour is a regular MAC meeting and the second hour is the land use committee or something like
And
that.
not in the second.
Yeah, and not have a separate land use committee or some kind of something like that. But I think there needs to be a place and a time for the general public to access us.
Can I ask a silly question?
Sure.
I'm
Well,
trying
you're
to,
not
I'm trying to have my
asking-
cake and eat it too again,
Uh-huh.
but in a different way. I think what you say is very true about, it's not just momentum, it's about repetitiveness, right?
Yes.
And we have probably not done a good job of making the land use committee meetings sound like MAC meetings so much, right? So could we have, I'm just throwing stuff out here. Have formal, like this kind of meeting every other month. The land use committee would be every other month too. We know that the land use committee does not necessarily always meet every time they're supposed to meet, right? For those times when there is no land use topic to cover, could we slot in a regular meeting? And so to get your momentum, or there would be a MAC meeting every month, it's just the topic would be land use. You know what I mean?
I do
I don't know
know
if that's, I don't
what you
know if
mean.
that's
I feel
possible.
like that's-
Clarification. The reason we scheduled the land use meeting for the first week of the month was so that land use could make some recommendations to MAC at the second meeting.
Oh, okay.
Mhm.
So that's basically why we had that schedule. set up.
Right.
So it's important to, one of the challenges that our land use committee had was the lack of cooperation with Permit Sonoma, advising us with enough lead time so that we could discuss something. And what happened, we only had one land use committee meeting last year because we had adequate notification. What was extremely troubling to us as a committee was the fact that when we look at the applications for some of these land use discussions, the applications were made 6 months and presented to Permit Sonoma 6 months in advance of the official notification. We were notified 1 week before a public hearing, but we didn't have time to react.
Right.
We couldn't even call a meeting to comply with Brown Act.
Right.
So my
Yeah.
returning back to the comment, I feel it's extremely important to have monthly meetings. You know, the County Board of Supervisors meets every week. And they managed to get it done.
Right.
Mhm.
And they have a full agenda. We have a full agenda as well. So there are a lot of things that we haven't discussed this last year. We had a lot of input from certain county departments, but I think missed some of the potential discussions that impacted our local citizens. We've had a lot of concerns about what's happening on the plaza. And that's part of PI's responsibility. We haven't discussed that. So I mean, there's lots of local things that people talk about that we haven't had a chance to flesh out here as a MAC.
Yeah, I agree with that, but I'm not sure I understand the correlation between that, having monthly MAC meetings
Correct.
and the land use side. So are you saying we can't solve the land use problem because of this lack of notice?
That's not quite what I was saying. What I was saying is, generally speaking, when the land use committee would meet on a bi-monthly basis, we would bring that information to the full MAC committee for presentation and recommendation to move forward to the board of supervisors. The land use committee cannot make the recommendations directly to the board of supervisors.
Only we.
It has to come to the MAC.
But you can still bring it to the full MAC if you're meeting every other month, can you not?
We would bring it to the MAC the next week.
So that.
So you're saying it's a short, you're shortening the amount of time, okay?
Correct.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
understand.
yeah.
So that we're more responsible.
Yeah.
Is this appropriate to bring up, the hiring information about land use?
I think that's getting a little into
Okay,
the
okay.
We're gonna
weeds.
talk about that on February.
Okay,
2nd.
okay.
But, if land use meets the first Thursday
Correct.
and the MAC meeting is the next Thursday,
Correct.
all that can be on the agenda is
Oh, right.
really like a headed, like
Yeah.
really, because the content, the agenda would have to be published before.
You have plenty of time. If we meet on a Tuesday, you've got a full week before the full MAC meeting, so it could be agendized. We had no problem doing it before.
I think they're set for Thursdays, February 1st, I think is the first one. I think they're on
Right,
Thursday,
so
that's
that's
a
that's
two-
still
that's a
be 72
2
hours.
Wait, what's the reason?
It's
right,
full 11.
Yeah,
Oh, so it is.
that's why we did it that way, so that you did have 72 hours to,
But I still
the
don't
agenda
understand,
is usually
I
set.
still don't
by that.
understand how that solves the land use issue. So if the reason why you had one meeting last year was because there was no notice to you and you therefore couldn't make notice and have a meeting, then what changes if we have monthly MAC meetings?
well, what's going to happen now is we're having a meeting on February 2nd with permits and all that to flesh out problems that incurred last year, so they don't reoccur this year.
So the assumption is that will be
We'll
fixed.
correct that.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's
We're gonna fix
definitely.
it.
Yeah.
Because it didn't work at all.
I know, and that's why I just wanted to make sure, because if it didn't work before, it's not gonna work again unless somebody solves
So
the
that's why
problem. So,
that's why we're having the meeting. with
and it
them.
has nothing to do with monthly at that point, okay.
Right.
Yeah.
But let's clarify this other issue though. First Thursday is land use, I get that, and worst second Thursday,
Yeah,
right? So that really is a week difference. And I'm going back to Debbie's point, and maybe we had a bigger separation between the land use meeting and the regular meeting for MAC that gave time to put something on the agenda.
Well, we could always move the land use to the 4th Thursday of the month,
That gives you 2.
and that would solve the problem.
That's what I'm saying, it's like,
I mean, we're not locked, we're locked that.
Yeah, yeah, right.
We can always move it.
Yeah.
Could you call on Betsy, please?
It has nothing to do with land use. I just would like to speak to the appreciation I have of having an update from Linda, from county representatives every month. I cannot attend Board of Supervisors meetings. I have a full-time job. I can't shut everything down for 6 hours or 8 hours on a Tuesday. So for us and the public to get that information directly from county staff, I think is really important. And the fact that we move from community to community so that we have neighborhood access to public comment in person, that's another really important piece of this. I would not mind skipping August. Or 1 month in the summertime. We're thinking about maybe nine meetings a year. But I think that monthly regularity and the fact that the public has access to information that they don't have access to.
Yeah.
Because not everybody can read the entire report of the Board of Supervisors, but getting those highlights is important to me, and I think for our piece.
And I would actually like, and I think we have this time maybe too, to get the topics in time for those topics to go on the agenda itself, so people know what it is.
That's a good idea.
Yes. Yeah. Get the topics that are coming up on the.
With the fifth district
What's what the
overview,
overview's gonna be.
yeah,
Just highlights, just.
yeah.
I would just say that I hear the arguments on both sides. I just object to ultra long meetings.
Yeah.
They don't do any of us any good.
Yeah.
It certainly doesn't do the public any good to have a 3-hour meeting, right? You know, I've had at 2 of those meetings, I had people come specifically to talk about topics that we never got a chance to do. So, you know, if we're gonna continue to have monthly meetings, we gotta, you know, we publish it's an hour and a half, but we gotta keep it to 2 hours.
There's
And
also,
it's up to you as agenda setters to make that happen. Because the rest of it, there's some variability in what the public wants to say and how many comments there are, how long the discussion is, but we have 2 presentations. You know it's
Yeah,
gonna go on.
and we really did try to make it a one topic per meeting thing.
Mhm.
And I know I had issues for this one, because we had too many on it, but we had to cover
we
it.
had,
And sometimes that's,
I would love to hear from you.
yeah.
we had two.
You want to come here every month?
Yeah, question, I have a question and comment. The question for the staff, how many people is staff?
Well, for the math, I mean, Lupe and I come to these
Two,
meetings.
For both ones.
And then, well,
And
the
then-
Toastmat I've been running, and Lupe's been coming to those, but we do have somebody new on staff who is going to be, taking on some of the Coastmat.
And translator.
And we have 2 interpreters online for this also.
Okay, thank you. And the comment I think is just along with what Joe was saying is, you know, I've attended meetings or watched them on live stream and the 14 agenda items in an hour and a half meeting is probably double. So I don't mind meeting for a couple hours. I don't mind meeting for up to 3 hours, although I think that it gets a little excessive at that point. I would just say in my day job, I run public meetings, Brown Act meetings, and I think 5 agenda items, including approval of the agenda and public comment on non-agendized items is the most you're gonna get, if you're gonna stick to that.
Yeah.
So I would say if we want to do monthly, I'm all for that, but try to either extend the meeting to 2 hours or 3 hours, or keep it to an hour and a half. Because the public shows up to talk about specific items, they want information about specific things. And somebody waiting to talk about agenda item 10 is not gonna be able to do that.
Right.
So that's just.
And this meeting tonight was really, the agenda is very internal. It's a public Brown Acted meeting, but there is no main topic for the public here. We're not deliberating. We had a lot of housekeeping to do, the Brown Act and the chairs.
I discouraged the people who reached out to me about coming to a meeting. Said, wait.
Today,
I said, wait till February.
I told people.
Yeah.
But Lonnie and Spencer, do you have thoughts on this?
I tend to agree with Ty. I think, I don't mind, meeting monthly. I think it's a good idea, and I think it's a good idea to keep the continuity, and to keep the public engaged, and having a monthly meeting, I think is a good way to do that. I would encourage fewer agenda items and trying to stick to, an hour and a half to max. Yeah, I don't necessarily, I don't necessarily want to come here for 3 hours every month. But I mean, if there's stuff that really needs to be addressed, of course, you don't want to leave stuff out there, and not give the public an opportunity to talk about things that are important to the public. But I think that it's kind of incumbent upon the committee to govern itself in such a way that things can be addressed and done and managed in a timely fashion. But
Okay.
Yeah, I feel similarly, and I really agree with what Cynthia said about just what it presents to the public and the community to have it consistently and monthly, and something they can rely on and kind of know when it's gonna happen without having to be, is this an on or an off month? Yeah.
Okay.
Election letter.
Yeah,
possible election.
We
have raised hands also.
Yeah, we do.
Yeah.
And Patty is an alternate, so let's, invite.
Public.
She's attending as public, but we invited our alternates
Yeah.
because it's kind of a scheduling meeting.
No, I only brought that up,
Oh.
was asking if there's anyone else up here that.
Oh, sorry. Yeah.
But with just one other comment, I also encourage the use of the consent calendar if there are things, if land use has a meeting and it's very high level, nothing really big, that could just be part of a report, do we accept that with the agenda and move on?
Yep.
That's all.
Okay. Online,
So Patty.
hi Patty.
Hi, everybody. You hear me okay?
Yeah.
As a member of the public, but also somebody who's been attending a lot of meetings, actually in place of Cynthia for a while, and then as alternate. I have met and talked to and impacted and gotten information from far, far more members of the public outside of these meetings. So I understand the emotion behind saying, let's do this more often because it's better for the public. But I really question that now, having gone through it for a year. When we show up to events, when we, engage the public outside of these very formalistic and long meetings, lots of good things happen. And I look at how many people attended this meeting from the public tonight, for example. And I think we ought to really question whether having more frequent formal meetings is the best way to engage the public, let them understand what we do, hear from them, and educate them more about how they can be more engaged. My own experience has been it's not in these meetings at all. It's in all the stuff that the ad hocs have been doing for the last year, I think in a really brilliant way. So thanks.
Anyone else in the public? Vesta.
Because I've been doing this for 5 years, we started out with a lot more public participation, but one of the reasons we did not have public participation over time, obviously COVID had its impact, was because we had public comment at the end of the meetings. And it totally made people leave. And then the other one was that we had 2 topics. Because they were every other month, we would have 2 presentations. And those would make the meetings go on very long. So one of our initial reasons for going monthly was to have 1 presentation. 12 presentations a year is not very much. And 12 opportunities for the public to participate is not very much. So to reduce it to 6 opportunities for the public to participate is wrong in essence, because what we're trying to do is interact with the communities to get the communities involved in the government processes and to be paying attention to all the things that we are discussing. So the only way that's going to happen is if we give them many opportunities. And like Cynthia said, when something is consistent every single month, people know, second Thursday, they just don't know where and they don't know what's on the agenda. We talked about this before, getting the agendas out earlier, but just knowing that every opportunity, every month, there's an opportunity for the public to voice their opinions at the beginning of the meetings. And then if they don't care about the presentation or the topics, they can leave, but we have heard them. And if we don't have a presentation, we can have an opportunity to say, this is a listening session. We're here just to listen to what you have to say and announce that in advance. So I think it's really important to continue the monthly meetings and to listen as much as possible to the people in our communities.
Yeah, I agree. And I'm fine with the month or whatever, but I think something that Patty said, I think is important, especially for the new folks. a lot of what you can do
Not.
is not in place. It's listening to people in your communities and engaging with them. Building, if you have a local, hyper-local meeting, talk to them that way. I like. Sometimes I tell them, don't come. Right, or they don't come because they know I'm gonna be there and I've already heard what they're gonna say, so they in a sense are here, even though they don't have to physically sit here for a couple hours. So you can use that to
And one of
engage
the,
a lot with people.
one of the things that Patty's talking about is what the communications committee did, ad hoc did this year, is make a point of being at events, of having a presence, so that people who come to us and tell us what is going on in their neighborhoods. I know this really well, but I think both forums are really important.
Yeah.
So we, the communications committee, which we're moving into a report about from whatever, would encourage your participation in our thing that we've created, because we've really had a hard time getting other MAC members to come and join us at events. And it's fun.
Just remember that before COVID, we did have a lot of people who attended our meetings.
Yes. Yes,
And it's hard to remember back that far, because it was quite a long time ago, but we had a lot of participation. And I think it's just a matter of people getting back into the habit.
And we've had participation when there are particular things that, you know, subjects that grab you, and mostly that's some of the issues, so.
I remember during COVID, when there was a public meeting where we had something like 80 attendees online.
Correct.
Mhm.
Yeah. A lot of nice topic.
And you read about the presentation, the count when Linda gives the monthly presentation. There are people who do not subscribe to the newsletter. They get everything they need to know in that one presentation, and it's really important.
Okay, anyone in the,
Yes.
there, okay.
Suki, go ahead.
Yes, okay, thank you. First of all, a nod to staff. I understand how burdened you are, and I, as a member of the public, really appreciate you. I'm glad that you do the work that you do. I have to say, as a member of the public, when you were meeting every other month, from a public perspective, it was chaos. I mean, not only could we not remember which month it was, besides where it was and when it was going to be or what presentations were, it was very, very difficult. I was so glad that you went to monthly, and I hope you keep it that way. But you really can tighten your meetings up. You could have a meeting offline, I mean, with public, and talk about how you want to organize the meetings. If you want to use Brown Act, there's a standard for that. You introduce the topic, you ask for questions about the topic from the board, you ask for public comment, you get your public comment, and then you go back and discuss it. So right now, you're kind of calling on the public after you go through the board, I guess, but it's, you could tighten your comments up a lot and focus. But I do hope you stay with monthly. And if in the interest of staff, why don't you cut it down to an hour? See what you can do in an hour. There's a lot of stuff you can do in committee outside, have written reports, put things on the consent calendar and pull them off the consent calendar if you really do want to talk about them. Anyway, just my 2 cents, but I'm very glad that you're having this conversation and that you're having this meeting.
All right,
That's
thanks, Pete. Anyone else?
Yeah.
Michelle, go ahead.
Thank you. So I have been in attendance, both in person and online, since you guys started, more online. And part of it has to do with, I work full time and I'm in business and I work in a corporate environment that does meetings. And the meetings go on too long. And with all due respect to everybody who's committing their time, I have a couple of recommendations that pretty much mirror Suki's. I think you need to do, my preference would be monthly meetings. They should be never longer than 2 hours. you need to control at the chair, the discussion and dialogue. I just timed your conversations that went back and forth. And I mean this with great respect because I know what it's like to commit to a community ideal and task, but you've gone on for about 22 minutes with dialogue that probably could have happened outside the meeting or been somehow kind of corralled. I think that needs to be, you need to be mindful, and that does come from the chair. So that I would request. The other thing is, I believe that I think it's Vesta who is in the audience, or the public comments need to be at the top of the hour because you are losing people or you're losing the community. Lastly, and Mike, I'll catch up with you later, but I'm not clear on what the land use focus is. And as a property owner, I'd kind of like to know a little bit more what that focus is, but I don't want to take the time now. I'll catch up with you personally. But anyway, shorter meetings, and they need to be monthly in my view. And thank you. Thank you for your hard work.
Anyone else? Okay. Let's move, oh,
So a
we
motion
should have a motion to,
I move that we continue meeting on a monthly basis.
Second.
Can I make a friendly amendment that we limit the meetings to no more than 2 hours?
Accepted.
and single topic when possible.
Accepted.
I think the time thing has to be.
Yeah.
And it's obviously making better use of the consent calendar. I mean, some of the items out here should have been on consent.
Okay,
Can I ask a question about this? If this is something we agree on now, it has to remain the same through the year?
No.
Or is that something that could change?
It could be agendized.
So if we stick with monthly and we try this time limitation and we're still having issues, we could
change it.
amend.
Revisit that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Then I might be on board.
Okay, so we have a motion. We had some amendments to that
2 hour limit
2 hour limit.
and one topic whenever
One
possible.
topic. Do I have a second?
Well, what about the
There was a second.
agenda items? Is that?
One topic, was that?
That's the presentation.
The other, I think that Ty was suggesting that we limit the agenda items, not just the topic, not just the topic of discussion, but the number of agenda.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Well, yeah, I'm not super married to a number. It's just, it's a
It's
time.
incumbent on
Yes.
PIP and staff.
Yeah,
to-
yeah.
Yeah.
We could.
I'm all aboard this.
Yeah.
Compare that now by making use of the consent agenda. Sure.
Okay,
So I captured that motion correctly, that it's to continue meeting monthly with a 2 hour limit to meetings and
Attempt for 2 hours.
Attempt.
Yeah, because we can't cut off the public if the public has.
right. Well,
well,
we could continue the meeting
Right.
we can,
theoretically.
You can just postpone an agenda item.
Yeah.
correct.
Yeah.
Can I make another amendment that we also change the land use committee, so it's 2 weeks before this meeting instead of 1?
Let's talk about that in land use.
Yeah.
Because
Okay, but I'm only agreeing to this if that happens, but
that makes good sense.
yeah,
But I don't want to include that in the motion.
okay,
Correct.
okay.
Is this the time to say the public comment on non-agenda items is always at the beginning? Is this the time to place that there?
I made that recommendation earlier.
We already said that.
Yeah, that's.
I think Betsy, you seconded it.
Yeah, Mike made the motion, Betsy seconded it, and,
Is Betsy,
Well,
is that the
the
amendment?
friendlies.
and I said
Yeah,
friendly,
okay.
and I have the friendly, so now you all can vote.
All right, all in favor?
Yes.
Okay.
So there were 8 ayes,
I'm still.
and are you nay,
Okay.
any noes? Okay.
Okay.
And no abstentions, I think, okay.
Right.
Okay, what was land use committee. Report and establishment of 22.
The report is written, and attached, and it's available for reading. And I don't think that we have any action at this point in time.
Okay.
Well, I do have one comment,
Okay.
and that is with Herman Hernandez being on the land use committee.
Yes.
I have no qualms whatsoever about Herman being on the committee.
Correct.
He's a realtor and very active community member in this community for many, many, many years. And so I'm sure he has a lot of perspective and knowledge. But I do question, and this is a question, because maybe not, whether or not he should be allowed to vote. I think not being a representative or an alternate, just having a community member on a major committee and voting. I don't know.
So,
So Cynthia, I can address that. The bylaws of the MAC allow for an ad hoc or for a committee to have one member from the community on it.
Public members.
Okay.
Yeah.
But, you know, in that case, it does seem a little, and this is not saying anything bad about Herman, but all people have a perspective. Okay, so, and Herman being a longtime realtor, has a more development-oriented perspective
Right.
than would, say, an environmentalist. And so I'm wondering.
Remember the land use committee doesn't really have the final say. It has to come to that. And we're the ones that vote and
Okay.
to move something forward. So
Okay,
it's mitigated by that.
yeah.
And it's also important from an equity standpoint.
Well, I'm not saying that perspective shouldn't be. I'm just saying, how do we have all more perspectives than just.
Are you limited in the number of community members you can have on a standing committee?
No.
So any environmentalist is gonna join.
That's correct.
After this bridge, sure.
Okay, so.
But this is an action item because we need to reform.
We need to reform it. So right now.
You don't need to reform land use because it's a standing committee.
But what year is this? 24,
Standing committees,
2024.
multiple year committees, only ad hocs.
But don't we have to,
We need a chair, because the chair and the members.
the members and the chair we have to do.
Yeah, then we don't have to form the committee, but we have to populate the committee, so.
So where I was going is that right now we have people listed on here as part of that committee. Is there anyone, number one, that's interested in doing it that's not on here?
And I see Patty has her hand up and she's on the committee.
Okay, right. And so we need to decide that. If this is the committee, if there's removal, in addition.
In the past, in the past, the chair of the subcommittee actually appointed the committee members,
Oh.
Yeah, I know you did that last year.
right? So the chair actually handled the appointments for subcommittee. Slightly different than an ad hoc.
So then that wouldn't be on here, that would be on the next.
That's on the next land use meeting. Right? Because
I'm fine with that. It's the way to do
But
it.
we have a meeting scheduled, so the existing members would go
Correct.
to the February.
That's correct.
Right, and if Mike is the chair, if they elect him chair, he appoints
Hopefully
the.
not.
Can I make a suggestion?
Yes, sir.
That you poll the group to see who else might be interested in joining?
I think you did that last year.
Yeah.
Mike.
I did.
That was why this is on the agenda, because otherwise you don't have an opportunity to have that discussion altogether.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But can there be more than 4 members?
No.
Or
I think there can be 4 members of the MAP.
One
and
members
then-
of the back, and then we can have various members of the public.
The only thing I will ask, what used to happen with land use is that once we had when we did have the relationship with permits and everything relatively good, and I know Kyra was getting information, because she was doing outreach or whatever, is that Kyra used to poll all of, I know she did me, and I'm assuming she did other people, when there was an issue in their area, to see if there was public interested in Rio Nito or Forestville or Kerrville or Pocket Canyon / whatever, Kerrville South, sorry. To see if there's interest to have it go to the land use.
And that happened this year.
Right.
Except we just didn't really have time,
Right.
but,
I just would hope that.
Right.
Okay.
So do you want to know who's interested in being on the committee now, or are you going to reach out?
No, I think
We can reach out now. Are there people that are interested in joining the land use committee? New members?
Yeah.
I'm interested in
Yeah.
the
Very
other
good.
committee, the engagement,
Okay.
Oh, engagement.
Okay.
Land use?
but I am interested.
I would, if Ty's gonna go engagement, I'll go land use.
I'm interested in learning more. I don't know enough right now. So.
Yeah.
Well, can we do that? You can do that off.
Certainly.
Off the.
Especially we can talk. Yeah, that'd be
Connect
great.
with Mike and you can.
And there's
We have some hot button items coming up in Kerrville, of course, with the hotel. And a lot of that, it's gonna come back again for public discussion, so.
Yeah.
Major item.
Yeah, it's definitely interesting to me.
Okay, so what we have talked about here is that the committee is still standing. Whoever is chair gets elected chair at the next meeting, will appoint the members. Right now, we'll reach out to folks if they want to be on it.
I'm sorry, Mike, what was the meeting, February 2nd?
Yeah.
February 1st. Yeah.
Did you want to change the meeting time now? That was discussed in the last item, or is that gonna be?
Well, we already have Permit Sonoma,
Scheduled.
scheduled,
Yeah.
so let's keep that one. Because it's hard to get.
Okay, so let's move on.
We had Patty wanted to say something.
Okay, Patty.
I only wanted to say I was interested, that's all.
Okay, great. Thanks, Patty. Okay, let's move on to community engagement.
My clarification, is this a Zoom meeting? Land use?
Yes. I mean, it's in person and broadcast on Zoom, but because it's a Brown acted meeting, the members will be in person.
Right.
I think it's here.
You can reach out to Mike.
Okay.
Okay, so the next is community engagement and outreach. This is an ad hoc, that we do have to formally vote to continue this ad hoc. So maybe we can start there.
Well, we form it. It's not, you can't continue an ad hoc. Which is more than a year. You have to choose the name.
Change the name.
Yeah, that's, which is why it's called community engagement. Outreach.
It was communications.
So that's kind of done. So,
Are you looking for a motion, Pip?
yeah, a motion to create this ad hoc on community engagement and outreach.
So moved.
Second.
And so we need to know who's gonna chair it, and who's gonna be on it. That's what the motion should be, yeah.
Well, let it get formed first, and then we can.
Okay, so it'll be 2 actions.
Correct.
Okay.
Well, Joe,
Okay, so then, I know there were people on it last year. I know people are still interested in doing it some more. There may be other people interested. You know, who is interested in being on this?
I'm interested.
And Joe, Ty,
I'm interested.
1, 2, 3, 4. That's all we can have.
Patty's hand is raised.
So we got 5. So we only have 4. Oh,
Patty's got it.
I will back off. There's enough, especially from the new people. That's great.
And Brian?
And Brian. That's great that you guys can see the hands.
Yeah. So we do need to appoint the people. There's 7 of you, 6 or 7 that are interested, we can only have 4.
Can we hear from Brian too? He's got his hand up.
Yep, go ahead, Brian.
I'm just volunteering to be on the committee. I'd love that. That'd be fun.
So we have Ty, Joe, Betsy, Vicky, and Brian interested. So there's one too many.
I can step back and be an alternate.
Is it possible to have an alternate on a committee?
No, it counts as part of.
Yeah.
You would hear how.
Yeah, I really want the new folks to be on.
You
And
don't
I
want to
really
be-
want the old folks to be on too.
Right, I know, but we can only have 4, so.
Yeah.
Does anyone wanna?
How would we?
I'm happy to hold back if of a Mac rep wants to do it, not an alt. That's fine too.
Well, I'm on it, Brian. I'm on the,
Oh,
Is
okay.
that Vicky? Yeah, okay, good. So Vicky's already on it. So yeah, okay, I can back off. That's cool.
And Patty, you said you would step off? Is it-
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
so why don't we do those 4 now? And remember, this is an ad hoc. We can change the membership.
I
of
was just,
the ad-
I
or
will,
the date.
but I just encourage everybody, you don't have to be on that committee to be doing.
Participate.
Yeah,
There's so much fun stuff to do and we need so many people. So I'm really happy to step off, but I will continue to coordinate with you guys. And, you know, you give me marching orders and anybody's not on the committee, just listen to what they figure out, what needs to be done and just go do it.
okay, great.
Okay,
so we-
I'm happy to help any way I can be useful. Thank you.
thank you, Brian.
So can we get a motion to approve those 4
I still
council
believe.
members as the,
Second.
who are
Joe,
Joe,
Ty, Vicky,
and Becky?
And so Mike was the second.
Yes.
And who made the motion? Okay.
All in favor? Okay, the next one should be relatively easy because we've talked about this quite a bit in other sections of the map. This is basically, an informational part, that we pretty much covered. So if anyone has any comments on this, now would be a great time to do that.
And I could give a little bit, this is if Supervisor Hopkins had been here, she probably would have talked about the calendar of significant events.
Yeah.
That's the draft. This week, the Board of Supervisors met and they finalized it. So when the final one is out, I would send it to you. It gets updated throughout the year occasionally. And it's really important for certain items. You know, not every item is relevant to the Lower Russian River, but certain items are, and Supervisor Hopkins will be asking for your input and requesting that these become agendized items.
So for instance, like last month, we had, we had 2 topics on there and we would have preferred one. One of them was tobacco use, but Supervisor Hopkins asked specifically, like, you gotta put this on there for me, because she wanted input from the community on that very topic. She had.
Can we have special meetings even if we have monthly?
Correct, yes, we can.
So maybe that's something to think about. This does say the title is 2023, but I see all the dates in it are 2024.
Oh, all right.
All right, so anyone have any questions on agenda? Ready? Public, anyone have any questions that we have not already talked about?
Well, I noticed that the cleanup committee is not listed here.
Yeah, we're not listing everything because we have a lot of comments.
Patty's hand is up again. Or is that from before? No, okay.
And just FYI on that, I mean, we could have put them all on here. We can create an ad hoc unofficially in between, right? So I can say, okay, we're gonna have a cleanup committee and people have like, will say, I wanna be on it, I wanna be on it, I wanna be on it. I can say, go, right? But we have to vote as a council to actually make that form. And so we'll get it put on the next agenda. As long as that's the total time. Okay. And we did public comments already. So I think we are adjourned.
Did we do the public comments?
Yes, we
Yeah.
did.
We moved that forward, okay. And, so is there a motion for the adjournment?
Motion for adjournment. I'll second it. Mike, what's the question?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's good, we're streamlining this meetings from here on out.
Well, there's.
Thank you all online people. Good night.
Thank you.